Alright, it is finally time for week 2 of the Pokemon World Domination Draft League. Now this week, we are facing Sir Genji. He's got a cool team, I got a cool team. We're going to take a brief look at it here, and I'm not really going to say much. We're just going to get right into the battle. I hope you guys enjoy a pretty stellar match. Alright, so we're going to get into the battle. Now, the good news is I'm using an actual controller this time, so I don't have a wild drift or anything like that. But there were a couple times that I accidentally, had my finger on the button and it was going crazy. I didn't realize it until afterwards. But anyway, we have a Rotom lead by the opponent, and we're going to be leading Rillaboom. Now, my general assumption was, okay, well, they expected me to lead Stunfisk, so they might lead Rotom, and I'm going to lead Rillaboom. And I can't imagine that Rotom is going to be wanting any bit of what Rillaboom has, whether it's Grassy Glide, Drum Beating, whatever. In this case, Grassy Glide, Knockoff, Body Slam, and Taunt. We actually have a physically defensive Rillaboom this week. And Amoonguss is going to swap it, and I'm like, oh, well, this Grassy Glide is going to be doing next to nothing because it 4 times resists. Look how little that did. So we're going to be getting some grassy terrain recovery on both Pokemon, and I'm thinking, okay, we took some Rocky Helmet damage. We need to get rid of this, but before we do that, I want to see what this is going to do, and we're going to be hitting it with a Taunt. Now, I can't imagine my opponent thought that I would be running a Taunt Rillaboom, because honestly, I've never seen one of these in my lifetime. Until the one that I just ran, and I just taunted, and I can't use Spore. Now, someone correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I believe Spore does not work on grass-type Pokemon. But again, I could be wrong. Someone correct me in the comments. But I didn't want to take the chance that it had Toxic or something like that. So we're going to be knocking off the Rocky Helmet, taking some damage in the process. But we're getting rid of the Rocky Helmet, which is my ultimate goal. And we're going to be taking some big damage from Sludge Bomb. We don't get poisoned. And we're around about a quarter or so of our health left after the terrain recovery. And I'm thinking, okay, well, Rillaboom kind of already did what it needs to do. Do I swap in Noivern to take it out? Because that was actually something I considered. Because we've got Air Slash, but whatever I swap in, I'm likely swapping into a Sludge Bomb. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't risk swapping in Noivern to a Sludge Bomb. So we're going to be swapping in our Stunfisk. So, yes, that's right. The pancake is back. And we're going to be taking Sludge Bomb damage. And it's not going to do much, but it is going to poison me. I'm like, oh, well, that kind of sucks. I didn't want to get poisoned. The good news is, between the terrain and the leftovers, we're going to be getting all of that back. But it's going to offset itself, but we're going to be taking the poison damage last. But we've already taken some damage from the Sludge Bomb, so we're not likely that we're going to be able to get all of our health back. So I'm thinking, okay, well, it probably is still going to be stuck into Sludge Bomb, likely. So we're going to try and set up the Stealth Rocks. They have some Pokemon that can take some damage from it. All of them technically will, unless they have, heavy-duty boots on, one of their Pokemon or something like that. But I'm like, well, this is still going to be nice to have, and obviously I can't Toxic Amoonguss. I could have Toxiced, anticipating that they'll be switching, because Amoonguss can't really do anything to me. I mean, if it has a grass move, it could, but I didn't want to take, I didn't want to Toxic thinking it'd stay in. So we're going to be setting up the rocks as the Rotom's going to come in, and I'm like, okay, well, there isn't really much I can do to this Rotom unless I go for Toxic or a Pain Split, depending on if it attacks or not, if it has, Toxic or... Well, I mean, it has to attack. It can't Thunder Wave me. But assuming it's got... I'm like, okay, well, it has to have Hydro Pump because it can't status me because I'm already poisoned. I mean, does it have Defog to get rid of the rocks? Is that what it's going to do? And it's actually going to go for Hydro Pump. It's going to miss. And I went for Toxic, and it's also going to miss. Okay, well, pretty uneventful turn. No big deal. Thinking, okay, well, it has Hydro Pump. We have Pain Split. Why not Pain Split to get some extra health back? Because if Hydro Pump hits, it's going to do some pretty big damage, right? I mean, it's super effective, and then it misses, and I'm like, oh my god. We're actually going to take damage off the Pain Split. I'm like, oh, well, that backfired. I'm like, okay, well, do I Pain Split again? Do I go for Toxic, assuming that Hydro Pump actually hits? I mean, what do I do? So we're going to get some more recovery, and then we're going to get some more poison damage. I'm thinking, we're actually going to go for Toxic, because it's going to rack up overall, and now Hydro Pump is going to hit. It's going to do some pretty big damage. But because of the build I have on Stunfisk, it's actually going to live the Hydro Pump. But unfortunately, Toxic misses. And I'm like, does this thing have Bright Powder or something? I mean, what is going on? What are the odds that I missed 2 Toxics in a row? I mean, that's an 85 accuracy move. But, we've got to get around that. It's just bad RNG on our part. So the terrain is going to disappear off the field. I'm thinking, okay, well, we're going to go for Pain Split, because if Hydro Pump misses, then we can get damage back, but it's going to land. I'm like, of course it lands. So Stunfisk is going to go down, and we have our first casualty in this battle, and we take a 1-0 loss because we're down a Pokemon. So I'm thinking, okay, well, what do I switch in here? Because they have Hydro Pump. I mean, if they're scarfed or something like that and locked into Hydro Pump, Noivern would be a good switch. And I'm like, Noivern could be good, but let's see actually if we can get Turtonator going. So we have a Shell Smash set on the Turtonator, and I thought about Dragon Pulsing in case a switch is coming, and I'm like, no, we're gonna get off that Shell Smash. I'm thinking, okay, is Rotom gonna stay in? I mean, Hydro Pump is still gonna do some pretty solid damage because Turtonator's only like 85 base and special defense, so it's not that good. I mean, it's pretty solid, but it's not like top notch. Like, it's not Stunfisk or one of the higher special defense Pokemon like Dragalge or anything like that. So, judging by the length of time that they're taking, I am anticipating that my opponent is going for some sort of a swap, and they do swap out Rotom, which we can get a free Shell Smash. But they send in Crocodile, and Crocodile is gonna have Intimidate. So it's going to drop our attack, but the problem with it dropping our attack is we have a White Herb! So we're going to be restoring the attack drop from Intimidate, which means we're going to be staying -1 in both of our defenses. And I'm like, they must have predicted that I was running a Shell Smash set, because that's the only reason I can think of for them swapping in something like Crocodile. But also, I'm like, well, if it outspeeds me, we're definitely going to go down because there's no terrain. And we're -1 in defense. No ground move that we take is one we're going to live. But we outspeed it, and Flamethrower is going to take out Crocodile. And I'm like, wow, I thought we were going down. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I can just sacrifice this thing. And I can try to send in another Pokemon. Because I'm already set in Shell Smash, I had to keep it out. So, Crocodile is going to go down, and we have now evened up this battle. I'm thinking, okay, so what are they going to switch in now? Is Rotom going to come back in? Are they going to switch in something else? What are they going to do? So, Rotom is going to come back in. Also, nice shine. They had a lot of shinies, which is really good. I commend them for all the shinies there, because I generally have just god-awful shiny luck, so I don't have, like, a ton. So we're going to be firing off the Dragon Pulse on the Rotom. Now, Rotom has some pretty natural bulk, so it's probably going to live this, which it does. Now, I don't know what type of spread they have on the Rotom either. Now, we're going to be taking a Hydro Pump to some big damage. We go down to only 12 left, just hanging on. And now we can finish off the Rotom with a Dragon Pulse. Now, I didn't know if they were going to swap here, because I'm like, okay, well, Rotom is on its last leg. And even if they swap it into something else, they're going to be taking a pretty powerful Dragon Pulse at +2. But also, if Rotom swaps out and swaps back in, the rocks are just going to finish it off. So, I mean, I'm thinking, okay, they have to keep Rotom in and just let it go down, because you're then going to get a free switch into another Pokemon, and they do. So that's going to be Rotom down, and we have taken our first lead in this battle. So I'm thinking, okay, what do they swap in now? Because we're going to outspeed anything that they send in. So, depending on what they send in, it could benefit us more. Whatever they send in is going to be taking some damage from the Stealth Rock, and now Cinderace comes in, and I'm like, oh boy. A Sucker Punch is most definitely coming my way. I can't imagine they're not going to Sucker Punch. I'm like, well, we're on 12 health. Do I Dragon Pulse? Do I just pick a move? Do I Shell Smash? What do I do? I'm thinking, well, we're just going to go for Scorching Sands, hope that somehow they don't Sucker Punch, and then they Dynamax, and I'm like, oh. Alright, well, at least we can get some damage on this thing. So we can at least, do something to it before we go down. I mean, we've got Stealth Rock damage, but I thought for sure a Sucker Punch was coming, and I'm like, well, if I sack off Turtonator, we can get a free swap into, like a Azumarill or something. But they're going to Dynamax. We're going to get off a Scorching Sands, doing some pretty big damage, because super effective Cinderace doesn't have the best defenses. But it's going to live due to the Dynamax, and then it's going to get a Libero, Max Airstream, coming off of, I don't know what flying move it gets, like Acrobatics or Aerial Ace or something like that. Or maybe Dual Wing Beat, I don't know. But Turtonator is going to go down, and now we are down 2 Pokemon. And it's also going to take some Life Orb damage, and I'm like, hold on a minute. Like, do I swap in Noivern or do I swap in Azumarill? And then I thought, wait a minute. They're taking Life Orb damage. We can send in Rillaboom, set our terrain back up on the field, and we can run Grassy Glide, because that's going to give us priority. And if we can get Grassy Glide, maybe the Life Orb damage can finish it off. So we're going to be going for Grassy Glide. It's going to resist. I'm not expecting it to do that much damage, but I'm accounting for the fact that the Life Orb is also going to do damage, expecting that will take it out. And honestly, Rillaboom's done everything I need it to do. It prevented the Spore on the Amoonguss. It got rid of the Rocky Helmet on the Amoonguss, which is also important. So I'm fine with sacking this thing off. So we're going to be going for Grassy Glide. We're going to get smacked here with the Power of the Sun off the G-Max Fireball. Basically, it's like they took a Capri Sun, unleashed the Power of the Sun, and then just smacked our giant Rillaboom, and we are down. So Life Orb damage is going to be taking off the Cinderace, and that's going to be down as well. I believe that evens up the battle at 3 apiece. I'm thinking, okay, do I send in Azumarill? Do I send in Noivern? I mean, what do we do here? I'm thinking, no, we're going to send in Toxtricity. Because Toxtricity is going to have, it can overdrive, it's got pretty decent move pool, and honestly, too, I don't know what they're going to be switching to. So we're going to be sending in our Toxtricity. They send in Kangaskhan, and I'm like, okay, Kangaskhan. Also shiny. I think they bred their whole team as shiny. I mean, hey, sometimes you got to flex with those shinies. And I'm thinking, okay, do I Volt Switch? I mean, I'm like, well, I can't Volt Switch, because then I'm going to be leaving another Pokemon susceptible to a move. Thinking, okay, well, what if we just go for Overdrive? And then it hits me with Fake Out, and I'm like, oh, well, alright, I guess we can just Overdrive next turn. And Fake Out does some pretty big damage. I mean, Toxtricity doesn't have the best defenses in the world, and Kangaskhan's got a pretty solid attack stat. It's got some stab off of Fake Out. I'm thinking, okay, so what's Kangaskhan have? Does it have a ground move? Does it have just a move that's going to take me on one hit? It's got Sucker Punch, and I'm like, oh, Sucker Punch. Okay, so we're going to be able to actually live the Sucker Punch then. We're going to get off Overdrive, takes it down to just under half health. We're going to get some health recovery from the terrain as well as the Kangaskhan. And because of that terrain, it's definitely going to be probably a 3-hit KO, unless we somehow got like a big roll off of like Sludge Wave or Overdrive. So it's going to be going for Sucker Punch again, taking us to 14 health. We're going to go for a Sludge Wave. Going to see if we can get a poison off a Sludge Wave, which we do not get. So Toxtricity is going to go down next turn. Now, looking back at it, I'm thinking, I don't know why I didn't Volt Switch there, because we could have gotten a free swap into Azumarill, blocked the Sucker Punch, and then potentially forced Kangaskhan out, or blocked its Sucker Punch to get a free setup. So at this point, I'm like, okay, well, since we couldn't get it in our Volt Switch, now we can send in a Azumarill. And this set, I really wanted to try to set up earlier, but I was kind of at a tough spot because, Cinderace was out. It would have probably destroyed me with the Life Orb. So we're going to be going for a Belly Drum here. And I'm like, okay, well, if Kangaskhan Sucker Punches, we get a free setup with the Belly Drum, and it's just going to swap. And I'm like, you know what? It's the next best thing. I'll take it. And Amoonguss is going to come in, and I'm like, wait, this is good. Because there is no way Amoonguss is going to think that we have Bounce on this set. So we're going to be getting off the Belly Drum. Now, I do have Citrus Berry, but unfortunately, I didn't quite have my HP configured in the right way. So we don't actually eat the berry, but we get some terrain recovery. So we're going to be going for the Max Airstream. Coming off a +6 attack. Now, I do have Jolly Nature on this Azumarill, so I can't imagine that even without the attack boost from Adamant, that Amoonguss is going to have any chance at living this move. I mean, we're coming +6. It's super effective. Especially coming off of a huge power boost in Azumarill, there is no way that Amoonguss is going to have any chance at living this. So we're going to be firing off a giant white twister. I mean, is it coming from its mouth? Is it making with its eyes? How does it make it? I don't know. But anyway, Amoonguss is going to get absolutely crushed with the Max Airstream. That's going to give our Azumarill a +1 in speed. I'm like, all right, cool. So we're going to be getting more recovery from the terrain. And I'm thinking, okay, so what are they going to send in? They've got 2 Pokemon left. They've got a Kangaskhan, low on health, and they've got 1 other Pokemon. I'm like, okay, do they send in Kangaskhan? Try to get some damage with Fake Out, even though I can't flinch. What do they do? Because, I mean, Fake Out's going to do some pretty good damage, but I also have the Citrus Berry in my back pocket. So they're going to be sending in Dottler. Now, Dottler is going to be taking some Stealth Rock damage. It's going to lose a quarter of its health since it's Bug type and it's weak to the Stealth Rock. I'm thinking, okay, do I go for Max Airstream again? Do I go for Max Geyser? Do I go for Max Starfall? I'm thinking, well, either one of these should be able to take it out. I went for Max Starfall. I don't think it would have made a big difference. I almost did Max Geyser just to set up the rain, but the fact that we're +6 in attack and Kangaskhan is already basically on its last leg, I don't think we really need the rain on the field. So that's going to be Dottler down, and we've just got 1 Pokemon left. Barring some catastrophic collapse, we should be able to get the win in the Draft League. So we're going to be going for the Max Geyser. We're going to be spitting off a giant blast of water. Kangaskhan's going to go for the Fake Out, actually critting me, knocking me into Citrus Berry range. But because we're in Dynamax, we can't flinch. So we are going to get some health back from the Citrus Berry, fire off the Max Geyser, and we are going to get that 2-0 start in the Draft League. Now, I went into this match not knowing if I'd get the win, but we got the win. We're 2-0. A lot better start than I actually thought we would get. I hope you guys enjoyed the battle, and next week we're going to be facing our third opponent in the Draft League. But thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you guys next video.